Welcome back. We're happy to have you back here with us. I'm wearing short sleeves because I always wear short sleeves, even though it's really, really cold here in upstate New York, Western New York rather. And we are continuing on now with Mary, Mother of God, which happens to be on a Sunday this year. So we're continuing on with is it Matthew? Luke. Okay, thank you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The shepherds went in haste to Bethlehem and found Mary and Joseph and the infant lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known the message that had been told them about this child. All who heard it were amazed by what had been told them by the shepherds. And Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, just as it had been told to them. When 8 days were completed for his circumcision, he was named Jesus, the name given him by the angel before he was conceived in the womb. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Now these names mean something, you know. Emmanuel is one I grew up and I'm like, oh, okay, that's just another name for Jesus. And it turns out that that's not exactly right. Emmanuel is a word that means God is with us. It becomes a name because it's the desire of the heart of the Jewish people who are hoping and longing for that day. The name Jesus means God saves. It's wonderful. And we call him that because, and then we call him that because he saves, you know, the life of his people, and we don't translate those names all the time. Sometimes we do, depending on the version of the gospel readings we're using. It might put a parenthetical in it and say this means God saves, just so that you know, because it's important. You learn something by the way things are named. Even my own name, my first name's Michael, and from the time I was a little boy and could first start thinking, I realized my father's name was Michael, and then I realized eventually that his father's name was Michael, and I realized that they called his father Mike when he came over from, well, Ukraine, Poland, whatever country it was. It's Ukraine now, but he was Polish speaking. So you realize that taught me something. It taught me about history is important, the names are important, and anyone can think about it that way. So we should always kind of keep that in mind. Peter means the little rock that's thrown from the big rock, kind of an idea. And the name Lazarus is from the name Eleazar, that means God is my help. God is my help. So these names mean all of these wonderful things, and that we gain something by knowing that and reflecting on it. But this weekend in this liturgy, the thing that is most important is Mary. How does it say? Did she ponder these things in her heart? Is that what it said?
Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart.
Reflecting on them in her heart. And that's that in her heart, that is the most wonderful thing. But my criticism, if I have only one. Teresa knows that I only have 2 criticisms at any given time. No, that's not true. Unfortunately, I'm a rather critical, in a good sense, of some of the things I hear that are problematic. And some of the things I regularly hear that are problematic have to do with our minds ruling over our hearts with an iron fist. If you can take that to that metaphor. That's the nature of minds when you give them too much power. And in our culture and in our world, we really admire smart people. We think, oh, you're a scientist, you're smart. You're good at math, you're smart. The real intelligent people are the ones that are wise enough, that's the word, to know that the mind is useless when left to its own tyranny. That's a nice way of saying it, I guess. But when it's in the service of our heart, then our minds are excellent and powerful and perfected. Reason finds its perfection in faith. That's an old thing that we have, as Americans especially, ignore. We get up here in our brain and we say, oh, faith is just you have to believe in things without seeing and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not. Faith is our participation in the divine life. Our participation in the divine life is modeled most effectively by Mary, who reflected on all these things, not in her mind, in her heart. In her heart. You can't say anything else really, and I should probably just stop there, but I'll go on for at least one more minute. So what I wanted to do is really offer you that you have people, especially priests. We meet with people, and we see other priests very much like this also, who are very much convinced that they can figure it out. We become much better when we realize we can't, and when we reflect on these things in our heart rather. Then they're figured out in a way that's beyond the words that we can use to describe them, and then they become true mysteries. You cannot actually, in that sense, understand a theological mystery if it's only in your mind, or if you're only thinking about it with your brains. You must think about it with your heart, because your heart knows God. It's one of those things that, an example of that is okay, here's the list of rules that I'm following. During Lent I do this, during Advent I do this, during Christmas we do this, and then on this day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the bells are ringing, I say this prayer, and we do that. Or what does Jesus tell us to do? When you do for the least, you do for me. When you look around and you see how indifferent you are to people and you correct it. When you pray for people who persecute you and harm you. One thing is good. The other one is a grace in place of that grace. The true calling of the life of faith is a matter of heart. It doesn't ignore the mind. It doesn't tell us that the law is bad. It says it's grace in place of grace. But we're calling is to a person, to a man we call Jesus, which means God saves us. And one of the things he saves us from is the tyranny of our own thoughts and our own minds. Okay, so there you go. Think about that and you'll be fine and everything will be okay. No, I'm joking. But really reflect on it. Pray over that. We have to be people who, when we encounter the Lord, or when you go and talk to your spiritual directors and you go over, okay, I'm doing this prayer, doing this prayer, doing this prayer, and he or she says to you, okay, what have you done for the poor? That correction should remind us that it's about here. It's about here. Okay, Teresa, did I accidentally say anything crazy or anything like that today? No, okay, good. Well, we offer you that today. You never can tell the week after Christmas. You don't know what's going on. You're kind of sleepy. But have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Please, please, please be safe, especially if you're in a place where your weather is really very terrible right now. And please take good care of yourselves and of one another. And always, always, always remember that as good as your mind is, your heart is greater, and your mind is good and best when it's in the service of your heart. So have a wonderful day and take good care.